Good morning. Globally, markets and policymakers are juggling a volatile mix of conflict risk, energy prices, and a fast-moving technological race. On global conflict and diplomacy, mediators cited by the Financial Times say the US and Iran are moving closer to extending a ceasefire by 60 days, with terms that would include a gradual reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. That matters for global energy supply and shipping costs. Al Jazeera also reports regional diplomacy continuing, including Pakistan's army chief visiting Tehran as efforts continue to formalize an arrangement to end the US-Israeli war on Iran. In the Russia-Ukraine war, the BBC reports President Vladimir Putin has vowed retaliation after accusing Ukraine of striking a student dormitory, while Ukraine says it hit Russia's Rubicon drone unit in an occupied region, underscoring the central role of drones and electronic warfare. On the global economy, the Financial Times reports U.S. oil producers are increasing output to capture a price surge linked to the Iran war, after a sharp rise in costs from a supply crunch. At the same time, the FT warns of bond vigilante fears as a bond slump unsettles investors, a signal that higher borrowing costs could become a renewed constraint on governments and growth. On artificial intelligence and the technological revolution, the Financial Times highlights a new arms race in computing power, arguing military capability increasingly depends on data centers and advanced compute. Governments that feel outpaced in AI are looking at experimental technologies, reinforcing that AI competition is now tied directly to national security and industrial policy. In space technology, the BBC reports SpaceX has launched its massive Starship V3 rocket on a test flight, another step in heavy lift capability that could reshape satellite deployment, defense logistics, and commercial space timelines. Turning to Australia, the domestic focus is the economy, tax settings, and what they mean for investment and households. ABC reports 5 leading economists broadly welcomed elements of the federal budget and the reply debate, while still arguing bigger tax reform is needed. The Guardian is pushing back on what it calls major budget myths, particularly claims around massive tax bills and an investor exodus tied to capital gains tax changes, arguing some of the loudest criticisms don't stack up. SBS's weekly Money Wrap points to a slowdown and shifting family fortunes, framing the near-term challenge as managing cost pressures and uncertainty while positioning for longer-term growth. In Australian government policy and politics, ABC reports US President Donald Trump has revived the Monroe Doctrine with a new interpretation, a development worth watching in Canberra because shifts in US strategic posture can flow through to alliance settings, regional diplomacy, and trade and investment confidence. SBS also reports the Trump administration plans to end in-country applications for U.S. permanent residency, another tightening move that could affect migration pathways and labor markets, including for Australians working in the U.S. At the local and community level, ABC reports a mouse plague is invading farms and homes in southern and western Australia, with impacts for agriculture, storage, and household health and safety. Also on local livability and infrastructure, ABC reports a longtime bike lane advocate has given up after years of lobbying, highlighting ongoing friction between climate, cost of living, and urban planning priorities. That's the latest on the material developments to start your day.